Verstappen hits Grand Slam at Imola. Have McLaren traded in the tractor? Did Ferrari buckle under the pressure? Welcome to the Late Night Race Review.
It's Monday, the 25th of April. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dave Jericho, and with me as always, commonly known on Craig's list as Sally the Slider.
Gross!
Owen Scott, ladies and gentlemen. If you like your Formula One news and reviews a day late and delivered with the same excitement as Owen Scott selecting his stilettos for the podcast, then you've come to the right place. Don't forget to give us a follow, like, comment, or subscribe on social media and anywhere you get your podcasts. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get on with the show.
One of these days, Dave, I'm going to come back at you.
There's comeback yet. There's retaliation coming.
Oh, that's a special one. That was a special one this week. I like that. Oh, God. Good old weekend of racing, Dave. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Did I enjoy it? 50-50. It was, I don't know whether it lived up to the hype. Maybe I overhyped it myself. And the fact that we saw a bit of rain coming down for the qualifying and the wet track for the race. So, yeah, it was fine. I think it was a 5 out of 10 or 3 stars out of 5, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. There was definitely those moments of where, especially in the race, where I found myself kind of trailing off a little bit, and it was very much Lawrence Stroll reading off the auto cue. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the ending, I think, lived up a little bit too. It redeemed it anyway, I think.
Yeah, there was. Like I said, it had its moments. I mean, look, the qualifying was fairly chaotic. A sprint race that was, it did what it said on the tin. And then the race, which had a good start, snooze fest in the middle, and somewhat of an interesting ending. So look, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest story of the weekend, probably even coming into the weekend, was all about Carlos Sainz and we talked about it last week on the podcast. We were discussing Sainz and his position at Ferrari, and then there was the announcement of the contract extension as well. So everything was it was very much, obviously we're in Italy as well, it's very much Ferrari based. So we get stuck into Sainz over the weekend. It was a tough oil weekend for him again.
There was a lot of pressure coming in this week, and especially as we said on the last podcast and after Australia, that he needed a good race this weekend. He needed to cast some doubt in the garage, where they're making the decision of the 1 and 2 driver. And I don't think it was necessarily through much of his own fault this weekend. I think it was a bit of bad luck. And a driver error that it did turn into a bit of a disaster in the qualifying. I mean, look, if we take the qualifying, I mean, coming into turn 18 in Q2, and that was on his second. They asked him to go for a second. We already did a push lap, and they asked him to do a second push lap. And then he just coming into turn 18 already got it wrong, got onto the wet, and back went out on him, and that was the end of qualifying. But at least he got lucky. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't too much of a disaster. I mean, he did end up starting in. Actually, sorry, that was Q3 or Q2. Sorry,
Q2.
Q2 was it? Because he started in 10th on the sprint race.
He got through. He got through, I think, on his time.
Oh, that's right.
Q2.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
you're right.
He started 10th. Very much redeemed himself in the sprint race, but just on that spin at Ravazza in Q2, where does that come from? Is it a lack of concentration? What was that?
I think, I mean, he was on his second push lap, so I think he was trying everything to try to get a little bit of extra time out of the lap. I think he just pushed it a little bit too hard, got up on the white line, which is, there's no grip there. Even on a dry day, there's not going to be much grip there. So when it's wet, I mean, you might as well be, driving on ice. So that was it. I mean, he just pushed too hard. It was just driver error and nothing more to it than that. I think he put in the banker, the first lap. Can't quite recall what his time was on that lap, but he was asked to do a second push lap. And yeah, look, that was the end result. Then was him going off into the wall, into the gravel.
Yeah, that seemed to be a bit of a theme of qualifying, was this hitting those white lines. A lot of people spinning out.
Yeah, no, it was. And I mean, look, that's it's going to happen. You're going to push. It's the first wet track as well of the season. They've after coming from Australia, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, absolute belters. And now you're coming to a fairly cold and wet sort of Imola. But look, he recovered in we got onto the sprint race. He started in P10. He recovered well. I think him and Sergio Perez were probably one of the highlights in the sprint race. And he got from P10 to P4, recovered well. And then unfortunately then, gets P4, you're thinking starting second row of the grid. He's back in it now. And I'm sure his confidence, he's thinking, look, I've recovered this, going in with a little bit of confidence. And and then sure, Danny Rick comes like a torpedo down on his inside, like just coming way too fast to stop that car, and takes him out. Racing incident. I mean, it was Daniel Ricciardo's fault, but still, you'd be hard to give him a penalty for that. So unfortunately, like it wasn't his fault, but but there you go. That's Sunday's race. No points for Ferrari from his side, and no points for him for the drivers' championship. So yeah, it's the questions are circling even more.
Yeah. It's there. As you said, they were. There was already not doubts, but there was already talk coming into the weekend all about this driver number 2 position. And do you think that will it be just bad luck, or Ferrari will see this as bad luck, or do you think this is, as these weekends go by now, every time that he makes a little mistake like this, they're going to pin him up? They can't help but not pin him up against Charles Leclerc.
Well, I think that's what's going for him. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't cross you there, but that's I think what's going for him in this weekend. That the fact that Charles didn't have a great end to his weekend, that sort of lends itself to his position a little bit more. Like if Leclerc was maximizing the points this weekend in the sprint and in the Sunday race, I think then I even though there was bad luck there, I think you couldn't but push towards Leclerc as the number 1 driver, purely because of the points difference. You wouldn't. I mean, I think at that point, I'm pretty sure Leclerc could have been nearly 100 points ahead of Sainz. I mean, let me just quickly have a look here. Just got 86, 20. So that would have given Leclerc and Carlos Sainz out there. Okay, not quite 100, but he would have been quite far ahead. You're talking, you're going to need 3 or 4 races to try and catch that back up. So yeah, I think you would have leaned towards Leclerc as the number 1 and Sainz as the number 2 had Leclerc maximized the points over the weekend. So I mean, he's still pushing 50 points behind, but I mean, as we see there, 1 bad race from Leclerc, 1 good race from Verstappen, and now all of a sudden everybody's back in the hunt again.
It's wide open. Not all hope is lost for Ferrari coming out of this weekend. They did. They gained 20 points from the sprint race, and then Leclerc's finish on Sunday. And Leclerc is still 27 points ahead in the Drivers' Championship, so they can dust off, forget about this week. It's just unfortunate that it happened where it happened for Ferrari.
Yeah, look, it would have been nice to have and look, everyone was expecting. I think. Look, I can't remember what our predictions were, but I think we were expecting, if not a Ferrari 1-2, certainly both of them on the podium. So yeah, it wasn't a great day in the office, and I think it does show the bit of lack of maturity from both of their drivers, lack of experience when it's sort of they're under pressure. I mean, they've came into a Ferrari side that were struggling and rebuilding, and now they're in a Ferrari side who have the car capable of winning both championships. So that's a different kind of pressure that they didn't have before, and they wouldn't have had it in the previous teams they were in in Formula One.
So let's get on to Charles Leclerc. A mixed bag for Charles this weekend. He had a great start in the sprint race, although Verstappen came back and took P1 for Sunday. Yeah, real mixed bag from this weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he on the sprint race, he had a great start off the line. I mean, look, he was holding the lead most of the race, and then sort of, I think what happened was Max Verstappen then was sort of saving his tires more so. Now, whether that was just that the Red Bull were easier on their tires than the Ferrari were, but just as it was coming towards the back end of the race, once Max made that move past Leclerc, Leclerc had nothing to answer with after that. He was gone. Yeah. So that kind of put a bit of worry in my mind then for going into Sunday. Especially if it was at the time we were thinking it might have been a dry race, although I wasn't keeping up on the weather, so I don't know. But it was still worrying that they were as hard on their tires as more so than anyone thought they were going to be. But then going into Sunday then, and then obviously we were starting with a sort of a wet and drying circuit. I mean, both Ferraris were terrible off the start. I mean, they dropped back. I think he dropped back to fourth at one stage, and then it took up until I think it was lap 8, lap 9, something like that, where he then managed to take Lando and get back up into third to try and track down Perez. Yeah. But after that, then everybody's race just sort of settled into a sort of like a train of cars just going around. We had no DRS until lap 34, lap 35, something like that. So it wasn't then until sort of later on when tires started going off, Leclerc then decided, look, I'm not going to get Perez and Max. Let's come in for a soft set of tires. Let's see if we can get the extra point out of this. And I'm just wondering, were they just going for that extra point, or were they also thinking in the back of their mind, let's try and force Perez into coming for a stop as well? Yeah. Because I think there was there 10, 12 laps left? Maybe not even that, maybe 10 or 11 laps left. Mm-hmm. And Perez, by that, if Leclerc was doing the stop, I don't think he would have caught Perez. So, I mean, I think they should, anyway, point is they all came in. For softs, and what happened then was it put basically Leclerc and Perez right up against each other again, which wasn't expected, and I don't think they expected it either, because I think they were just going for the soft set to be able to get that extra point. So then you had now Leclerc on Perez thinking, I'm gonna push for this now, he had the headlines in his eyes sort of. And pushed too hard then going into the final chicane, and took an absolute wallop of the curb, spun the car around into the wall. Thankfully, not too hard that he was able to keep it going. Yeah, but just an absolute disaster. Like just again, it just showed inexperience. I think some other drivers you see, again, I don't want to be comparing to Lewis Hamilton, but I mean, look, he is probably the most successful one on the circuit at the moment, or on the grid at the moment. Like, he has that ability. If he knows there's too much of a risk, that he tends to just settle for a position in those kind of instances, and would have just taken the third place, got the podium, got the points. Leclerc, again, like I said, showed a bit of inexperience, pushed way too hard, especially down into that chicane. Like, I was just, I don't know what I know what he was hoping for. He was hoping to get as close to Perez coming out of turn 18 onto the pit straight. But look, it wasn't to happen. He spins out, and then he's back down in, I think he dropped as far as 8th, I think, after that. Then because he had to come in then for the pit stop, change the nose cone, change the tires again, and back out.
Yeah, I'm wondering going forward, Verstappen's been now in this situation before where he's been hunting for a title every week. He's been up against Lewis Hamilton, one of the greatest drivers on the grid, definitely one of the greatest drivers on the grid at the moment. And that little bit of extra experience, you'd think, would set him apart from Leclerc. And maybe we might see that going forward this year. That inexperience from Leclerc just eking out in little areas.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. And now, just on Leclerc, like just before we move on, one thing that annoyed me about the race, and I was going to talk about it later, but I think it was an issue that impacted Leclerc, was the DRS not being opened until lap 34, or being enabled. Sorry, not opened. Wasn't being enabled till lap 34. Because now I don't think the Ferraris. I've been back and forward with my thoughts on this one as to what I think might have happened had Leclerc had DRS, say, from lap 10 or something like that.
Sure.
I think there was opportunities there, but I realistically, I just had a feel, just from what I was seeing when DRS was enabled, I just didn't think he was going to I didn't think he was still going to be able to take Perez, because I don't think he ever got really close enough coming out of turn 18. I think cars had to be like within 3/10 going into the pit straight. And I don't think, like, on occasion, maybe he was once or twice, I can't quite recall, but largely I don't think he ever was. But where it would have been beneficial was when Perez went on at the chicane. Do you remember? So that was one of the only opportunities, I think, was when Perez went straight on at the chicane, coming into turn 17, then turn 17, 18. Perez went straight on. And then that was the only time I can remember that Leclerc was bumper to bumper with Perez up top. And I think had he got the DRS at that point, there was no question. I mean, even Horner was saying it when he was talking to Crofty on the commentary. Yeah. He knew that if Leclerc had DRS, then he would have taken Perez. So he was, Horner was sort of saying we got lucky on that one. So not only I think did the DRS cheat fans out of a good race, I think it cheated Leclerc out of results. I mean, look, that's racing. Like, you just have to take as it lies. Like, you just got to play it. But look, that's just my gripe. I will revisit this later on in the podcast, I feel, though.
Yeah. You don't want to get into DRS now. Do you feel that it was a bit over conservative, or do we have an explanation for why it took so long to get that DRS?
No, going? And there's not going to be an explanation given. But look, I see a couple of reasons. I think they were just being overcautious based off what happened with last year with George Russell and Bottas.
Sure.
That was a very bad crash, but the track and both the racing line and the off the racing line were much wetter last year when that accident happened than they were this year. Like, I think realistically, probably by lap, I know the commentary was sort of saying, oh, I'd have enabled the DRS by lap 10.
Yeah.
Realistically, I don't think so. Like, you could see cars going off the racing line, the spray was coming up off the back. So I think, that was way too early. But certainly come sort of between lap 16, 17 and lap 20, maybe at a very push, there was no reason why the DRS shouldn't have been active. Like, it's like someone it's like the fucking race director was just sitting there, like he fucking fell asleep or something like that. And someone just woke him up on lap 34 and he's like, oh, fuck, I didn't enable DRS. Like, and then just goes and hits the button. Like,
Lawrence Stroll went up for a chat and sent him off.
To fucking La La Land. So, I mean, I was raging. I mean, look, you probably knew that from the WhatsApp group that was it was sort of like, thanks Imola, fuck off.
The group was glowing.
It was just, it cheated. I between the drying track, the conditions that we had, we thought, okay, this is going to make an exciting race. And when we moved to slicks, you're thinking, right, we're on slicks, okay, give it maybe 2 laps on slicks and then bring in the DRS and let the guys fucking race. And no, nothing. And then lap 34, when everybody has burned up their fucking tires by this stage, fucking Gombean wakes up and turns it on again. Like,
and like all of the teams pretty much at the same time decided the track is dry enough, get everyone in, let's get the slicks on. And at that stage, do you not think the race director should have been like, okay, well, the teams trust in what's out there, they're on the ground, they know what's happening, we can go for this now. But he held on and held on, and as you say, it would have been a slightly different race had that been enabled a lot earlier.
Like overcautious was lap 20 enabling DRS.
Yeah.
On the bubble was lap 20 or lap 15 or something like that. Maybe lap 14, 15. That would be kind of like, okay, you're testing the waters here. Lap 20, you were good to roll. Hence why I reckon he fell asleep and did not turn that fucking thing back on again.
Well, had there been DRS or not, I don't think anyone would have caught Max Verstappen this weekend.
No.
He had a flawless weekend, and the thing that we had talked about in previous week, that reliability, was now their strong suit over this weekend. The car seems to be running how they want, and no demons this week. It was a flawless performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it was the Grand Slam performance, I think, wasn't it? I mean he got the qualifying, he got the sprint race, he got the feature. We don't call it feature race, do we? We just call it. Do we call it Sunday race? I know in F2 it's the feature race.
Yeah.
The hell, like, it's not called feature race in Formula One, is it?
No, it's just race.
It's just the race, sprint race, and then the race.
Sprint and race, yeah.
Anyway, we'll call it Sunday's race. And like, yeah, he bossed everything. So
perfect.
And like you say, it looks like they got on top of the reliability issues. There didn't even seem to be anything. Like there was nothing on the radio. There was didn't seem to be any concerns. But like we said before, I think it was most of the reliability issues, or all the reliability issues, were related around the fuel system. Mm-hmm. So I think they were going to be issues that were going to be easily resolved anyway. Like, I mean, it's, it shouldn't have been that complex. So I think it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that they solved it, I think.
Yeah. Well, we can only hope that it is solved because, Bahrain, we had an issue. Saudi Arabia, we didn't. Australia, we had an issue. Italy, we didn't. So, if the trend is going to keep on going, we'll see.
That's true. States. After me saying that now, yeah, they'll probably end up in a ball of fire at the corner of some Miami hotel.
It was the on week for the Red Bull, and very much a tale of two starts for Verstappen. The sprint race, he didn't get a good start off the line. Do we know exactly what happened there? Was that discussed? He'd said something about the gears slipping.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about that, so I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, no, it wasn't a great start. I'm guessing though it was driver error. I don't think I can't imagine it was. Otherwise, I think we would have heard a little bit more about it if there was an issue with the car. But yeah, and a great start then, obviously in the race on Sunday.
Yeah, fantastic. And it didn't seem to ever be in doubt for Verstappen at all.
No, it's clear sailing. But then again, within reason, same with Perez. I mean, once there was the moment on the Sunday race where he went off and Leclerc had the opportunity to take him maybe, but it just always looked like the tires were going off. Once, like I said, once the DRS came out and you could see, DRS was enabled, you could see already at that stage that Leclerc, but like the tires were burnt up trying to get past Perez without DRS, trying to stick as close as possible. So because I mean he needed to be even like if you had to be within 3/10 with DRS going down that straight, without DRS, coming out turn 18, you are literally climbing into Perez's arse like to get down that straight. So he'd no tires left at that point. So I think Perez then was fairly good to go, I think, and there was no catching him at that point, I don't think.
Yeah, and yet again another fantastic performance from Perez, and as results go, he's been more consistent, although it's due to the car, than Verstappen this year in his finishes. I mean, he's looking a hell of a lot better than he was last year, and I said it last week. If he continues to perform like he's performing, he's going to push Red Bull over the line, I think, in the constructors, and they've picked up 58 points this weekend, and it puts them in second. Mercedes now drop down.
So after the race, I think in the driver briefing, the two Ferrari guys, I think, would have been sat down and told that, take the points that are on offer. Obviously, you're racing, you're there to push and get the maximum points you can, but okay, wasn't Sainz's fault this week, but has been in previous weeks. So it's what we see here. Like, so you got Verstappen. If Verstappen's going to win, I mean, look, he's clearly the better driver of that pairing. But so if he's winning, or if he's finishing ahead of Perez, but if you've got your number 2 who's finishing just behind you, or 2 places behind you, then that's how you're going to win the constructors title. Not having the likes of Leclerc and Carlos, who are just going hell for leather and spinning off and losing points left, right, and center. I mean, that is going to cost them. And I'll be honest, I hate to say it, but I feel the confidence has swung in the favor of Red Bull a little bit. I know it's only one race, but we just saw how the mistakes that were made, the stupid mistakes that were made by Ferrari this weekend, or the drivers this weekend, compared to just an absolute class performance from the Red Bull drivers. So yeah, I just feel that pendulum has swung a little bit in the favor of Red Bull. Like I said, I know it's early, but I just feel that they've the confidence is there. You could see it. But
anyway, Leclerc, with that driver error coming into the chicane, opened up an opportunity for Lando Norris to sweep on in and take 3rd place. He got on the podium.
Yeah, it's class to see. Lando's such a great driver. But surprise. Well, it wasn't surprising. Like, it was surprising because I'll be honest, I don't know how McLaren have fixed their problems, or have they fixed their problems. It was, like, I know this is 2 races in a row where they're looking sharp and they're saying it's track specific, and you're like, okay, how many races? Like, what? I mean, if this is track specific, then realistically, probably Miami is going to favor them as well. There's a lot of long sweeping, fast sectors, fast corners and stuff. So have they solved their problem? I don't know. But either way, Lando Norris, excellent in the wet, apart from Sochi. And I mean, we only really saw, like, I mean, his getting that sort of accolade of he's excellent in the wet came from Spa, when we didn't actually get the whole thing finished. And he crashed out in that as well. Yeah. But he was gunning it, and he had so much control over the car before he crashed it. That it just, I mean, he takes it from, driving around England in go-karts in the lash and rain, like, so. So it shouldn't come too much of a surprise those conditions favored him. And accompanied with, clearly McLaren are doing something right with the setup, or with some minor upgrades that are coming. So fantastic result. Not so much for Daniel Ricciardo, but some fantastic for Lando.
Yeah, and for McLaren, and like the Red Bulls, the McLarens were both lightning off the start on race day. Really, really impressive. And I feel, for me, it feels a little bit bittersweet watching Lando perform like this, because he deserves to have a consistent car underneath him week in, week out. And I wish for him that they've developed this McLaren. And get him into the hunt, but it doesn't really look that it's going to go that way.
Well, he's not going to get in the hunt with Ferrari and Red Bull, but if he can at least even get in the mix with, the best of the rest, maybe that would be I mean, if they can finish the season 3rd in the constructors, I mean, that's a hell of a season from where we thought they were at the start of the season.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about Daniel Ricciardo. You mentioned him there. Unfortunate. Maybe he was just a little bit too bullish coming into that corner.
His lightning quick start off the fucking grid didn't end, apparently, coming into the turn.
Yeah. It ended in Carlos Sainz's rear wheel. Like Sainz, is there questions to be asked of Ricciardo already?
As in whether he should still be there?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, who do you bring in? Like, I mean, it's you've got a really experienced driver. He had a bad run of it, but he does have the experience to turn it around, I think. So yeah, I think it'd be too early to kind of talk about kind of replacing. Although some nonsense, I'm not even going to talk about it, but some nonsense rumors circulating around today, which I don't know whether they started yesterday and we're only seeing them today, but absolute horseradish.
Let's not give them the time of day.
No. So I think Daniel, he's going to get this. He'll get time. I think he'll be there still next season as well. I think they'll stick with Lando and Daniel for next season as well, I would imagine.
Yeah. It is going to get to a point though where Lando has the necessary experience to call himself the experienced driver at McLaren, and if Ricciardo doesn't pull his performances up a little bit, then I think McLaren might start looking.
Yeah, I mean I mean, look, any team's going to do that if your driver's underperforming, but I think it'd be a bit unfair to throw Daniel into that conversation just yet, I think.
Okay, we'll give him time.
Yeah.
And an interesting finish to qualification for Lando, possibly a new tactic, spinning out and finishing qualification, getting a red flag and securing his position. Is this a new tactic that we're going to see from McLaren? Or
yeah. Do you know what's funny about that? I don't think I didn't dive into it too much, but I don't think he had enough time to make it round to start a flying lap. So he spun off. Now, whether he knew that or not, but he spun off without even being able to make the checker flag anyway to start a flying lap. So not the checker flag, but being able to reach the start line to start his flying lap. So all he did was come out, spin out, bring out the yellow flag so nobody else could set a faster time. Look, it wouldn't surprise me. We've seen that done before. I remember Nico Rosberg did that in Monaco. And I mean, I know there was people thought that that's what Leclerc did in Monaco last year, but obviously not the case. Like, I mean, he hardly ruined his gearbox just to keep pole position, then ended up not starting the race.
Yeah. Do you think, looking at Mercedes versus McLaren this year, why do you think we're seeing such a difference? I know, I suppose Russell got the best out of the car on Sunday, but there seems to be a big difference between the two cars, even though they're both Mercedes engines, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't. I'll be honest. Jesus, this is a podcast on its own, really, isn't it? Mercedes.
We could go deep on it.
We could. So let's not. I'll try not to drag this out too much for everybody. Mercedes. So the engine, I don't think, is the issue. Yes, there's can always get power out of it, but the problem is that the aero package and just the chassis and everything else that surrounds it. For McLaren, the issue came from the brakes and needing to get more air into the brakes. So obviously we discussed this in length in previous podcasts that, that's all well and good, but when you start redirecting airflow from the rest of your car that's requiring it for your downforce or whatever, and you're redirecting it to your brakes to cool them down, you're now taking some of that performance off the rest of the car. So you have to then compensate. So I think maybe they were in a better starting position, that the aero of the car was actually fine. Like, I mean, if they had the brakes not overheating, perhaps they wouldn't have had too many issues. Whereas Mercedes, on the other hand, the aero is just it's all wrong. Like it's just like, I mean, I suppose we don't technically know what's wrong, but it's all wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. I thought by this stage they would have even been like, they're bringing little winglets here and there. I think they brought like an upgrade to the floor or something like that.
They wanted to secure the floor to the there was like the
stay, but they all have the stay. Yeah, they all have the stay on it. But no, they brought a lighter floor. Like, they're trying to do a weight saving. But I mean, even the weight saving, I don't think the weight is going to, like, yes, it'll creep them up maybe that one or two places, but it's not going to get them up to the back of the Red Bull or the Ferrari, or even at this moment in time ahead of the McLaren. So I have no idea. Like, I mean, we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago, where I'll be honest, I hold my hands up. I was saying, 2-3 races, McLaren or Mercedes are going to be rolling out some upgrades, and we're going to see a very different car, and they're going to be back in the mixer pretty quick.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, after this race now, I don't see how that's going to happen. But I'm going to contradict myself as well on this one, because I'm saying that from what I see from Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yet George Russell, we had George finishing in like P4 in Bahrain, P5 in Saudi Arabia, P3 in Australia, and P4 in Imola, with a car that's horrific. Now, he did even come out after this race saying, can't quite remember the quote, but basically saying that his back was in bits and he was getting chest pains or the equivalent of chest pains or that type of pain he was getting from the severity of the bouncing that was going on with porpoising. So you cannot, that can't continue. I mean, he was talking about that even before. He was doing a lot of work in the gym to strengthen his back and stuff to accommodate for that lateral sort of movement and impact. So even with all that, he's getting more out of that car than Lewis Hamilton is. So maybe, like I said, I know I've just had a rant saying I don't see them doing anything. So I'm now the third person on this podcast that's going to argue the other side of it. But no, I do see them in a lot of trouble. George, I think, is just used to getting a lot out of a car that's underperforms with the Williams and stuff like that. So he's hit the ground running a little bit better than Lewis is, and Lewis is just absolutely sulking and not bringing his A game to the track, I don't think.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, that they have the exact same car. Toto came out afterwards on the radio apologizing to Lewis, saying that the car was undrivable and, we're really sorry for putting you in this position. But as you say, George is out there performing. He's doing it. And I understand. I was going to ask you a question, but why are we seeing such a difference in these two drivers? He's meant to be this world champion, and he's not getting the same out of a guy that was in a Williams last year. But maybe that's the key. But speaking of Hamilton, he spent most of the race sitting behind Pierre Gasly. It must be so disheartening for him to come from where he was to where he is now.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I felt sorry for him today because I think he had better pace than what he was showing. The problem was he just got stuck in the train prior to DRS being enabled, and then the DRS train after it was enabled. And he just, I don't know, maybe there was, I know he was braking a lot earlier than Gasly was coming into turn 2. Maybe I don't know, maybe there wasn't the confidence in the car to be able to brake that extra little bit later to take that position. Although Nico Rosberg seemed to enjoy it in the commentary, saying, I think they were live on the commentary, and Rosberg's like, "Oh, here we are watching Hamilton trying to take Gasly for the 20th time. Oh, that's got to be." What did he say? He's like, "That's got to be painful for him." And you're like, and that was said with a smile.
Oh yes, absolutely. He's great. I like Rosberg. Yeah. So do you see the Mercedes car being improved? Obviously, we've got a week now in between Italy and Miami.
Well, I think they're earmarking all their big upgrades though for Spain.
Right. Okay.
So take that with a pinch of salt.
Okay. All right. I suppose that kind of brings us into the best of the rest on the grid, and a few moments that we need to sum up. I suppose Fernando Alonso and his car pretty much falling apart.
Thanks to Mick Schumacher.
It was a Mick Schumacher. Was that on the same corner as the Daniel Ricciardo Sainz incident?
Yeah, it was at the exact same time. He harnessed his Mazepin spirit and spun the car into Alonso's side pod. That's that. And then his, I think, Len, I can't quite remember, but it was down towards God, was it as far in as lap 8 or 9 or something like that? Then that paneling just blew off when I think Hamilton was going past him, and then that was the retirement. Then at that point,
sad to see, as we both had dubbed Fernando Alonso our surprise for this week.
yeah, that didn't pan out. I don't think anything panned out for us this week.
No. We'll get into that now in a few minutes. Bottas and George Russell having a decent go. We thought at one stage maybe we might see a repeat of last year, but it was not to be. Bottas did what Bottas does well and sat behind.
Yeah, and I think he had Russell. I'm pretty sure of it. Like I think now Bottas, like in Bottas's defense, he took there was an 8-second hit or thereabouts, say maybe 7 or 8 seconds of a hit in the pit stop with the front right not going on. So if you take that into account, he would have finished ahead of George Russell. Now, obviously, we don't know how the race would have unfolded from his position at that point, but with that time in hand, yeah, he would have been ahead of Russell. But that aside, he was still within a second. He had DRS, but again, like we were saying with Charles Leclerc and some other drivers trying to do an overtake, he was never, I don't think, under 0.5 of a second behind George Russell going down that straight. And anything outside 0.5 going down that straight, there wasn't enough straight to get that person, to get that driver in front. Yeah. So I think he never, like when he came out turn 18 and the two of them were starting down the straight, I don't think he ever reached that 0.3. In fact, he didn't ever reach that 0.3 mark. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of losing out somewhere else on the track. And yeah, but like we say, Bottas doing what Bottas does best, not getting aggressive with his overtakes.
Yeah, a little bit of a lack of imagination or something maybe, because he attempted to go on the outside coming into that first chicane a few times, and after the second time you could see just that it wasn't going to happen. Russell was going to defend, and he defended it perfectly as well. He did really, really well to keep that position. But for me, it was a lack of imagination there to even just try something a little bit different, maybe somewhere else, but just wasn't to be for Bottas.
And I know there was a lot of other drivers that were struggling to overtake as well with DRS, but I don't know. I just felt that it was there for him on that one. I really did, especially towards the end of the race. I thought it was there for him for the taking.
The history was there as well, and you were gunning for him to just pull up alongside and just turn that wheel in.
Yeah, yeah, just payback.
Yeah, hop up and then slap him on the helmet.
Yeah,
but another surprise this weekend. Well, it was for me anyway. Seeing the both Aston Martins, in the points. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, they finished in the points, but I mean, I think they finished in the points because nobody was really overtaking. There wasn't. Yeah, they finished in the points.
There's nothing more to be said about
it. Like I know that review of Aston Martin's race was as good as Lance Stroll would have done, but it was.
Oh god,
yeah. Well done.
There wasn't an awful lot of coverage of them. To be fair, it pretty much passed me by. To be honest, that it was more afterwards that I saw the results, and a Q3 for Vettel as well, which is the first for Aston Martin this year. First time they've got to Q3.
Yeah, and again, I'm not going to read too much into it. Like it was fairly. Sort of changing conditions for the track and the weather and stuff like that. So we'll see when it comes to the fully dry circuits or the fully wet circuits, and there's not much changing in conditions. We'll see where Aston Martin are. Have they made some progress? Are they up in the, are they challenging for points on a regular basis, or was it just because everyone else was having a horror show?
Yeah, we shall see. So I guess that kind of takes us into our predictions section.
Mm-hmm.
Will we have a look at how we did this week?
Oh yeah, I'm just opening it up here now.
This is a
what did
crash.
I have?
So to sum up where we were from the last time that we were in here, you are 2-1 up from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
You very convincingly defeated me, and I don't know how it's going to go today. Be interesting.
Do you have it open? I've just opened it, and
I have opened it, but I'm yet to process what I'm looking at me.
Oh, okay. I've just processed it. Let's go. Let's get into it.
Okay, Dave, do you want to give me your top 3 for Imola? Your prediction.
All right, this is where my excitement ends. So yeah. So Sainz to win the race.
Won't make that mistake again.
I had my logic was sound on this one, but
yeah.
But anyway, Sainz to win the race, Leclerc second, Jesus, and Verstappen third.
Oof.
At least I had him in the podiums, but it wasn't in the right position.
Yeah. So no points there.
Yeah,
from your top 3. It's a similar tale for my top 3. To be honest, I had Leclerc winning, I had Verstappen in 2, and I had Sainz in 3rd. And again, 0 points. Ouch.
No, this is where it gets. This is where it gets interesting.
Okay, so your flop for Imola.
My flop took out my race winner, but in doing that, turned himself into my flop. That gives me a point. Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh, there you go, Daniel Ricciardo, 1 point. Well done. That's that could win you this week. My flop for this week was Lando Norris.
We really weren't having much hope for McLaren this weekend, were we?
No. And as I've said before, if anyone is into betting, I would have a listen to whatever I predict and bet exactly the opposite way.
And also consider that maybe you should wait to do your betting until the day of the race, so you know what the conditions are. Not what we do, which is after the previous race. So our predictions are already 2 weeks old come race day. So
it's much more fun this way. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So your surprise and my surprise were exactly the same surprise.
Technically, it was a surprise what happened.
Not the rules of the game, though. We both thought that Alonso was going to do a lot better than he actually did.
Yeah. Now, what position was Alonso in when Mick Schumacher hit him?
Oh, I'm not sure, actually. That's a good point.
To be fair, he probably wasn't 7th or 5th, so I think he was probably down around... Would he have been P9, maybe?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Either way.
Well, where did he in the sprint race, he finished, what, 9th? Yeah, so 9th. He coming into that corner, he was probably, 9th. Mick Schumacher was 10th, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But either way, you said that he was going to finish P7, so he did finish closer to your position than he did to mine, but you're not getting any points for that.
No. But
no points.
Tally up the scores there, Scotty.
It won't take me long to count this, in fairness. There's only 1 point.
All you have to do is, yeah.
Genie, 1 point to be had. You got it for your flop on Danny Rick. Good shout. So that means that you are now 3-1 up after Imola.
Scratching my lead. The internet goes wild.
Yeah, but I you know what? I'm confident, which means nothing, on my predictions for Miami. Will we get stuck into our predictions for Miami?
I can't remember who went first with their predictions last week.
I'm not sure. I can't remember.
You want to rock, paper, scissors it? See who goes first?
Okay, let's see how this goes over the internet. Okay, put your hand up.
There's lag.
You ready?
All right, yeah.
One, two, three. Shoot.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, the fuck?
Okay,
that looked like a rock to me. Then.
Okay, let's go again. Ready?
Scissors.
Okay, here we go.
Right.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Yeah.
I can't see your hand.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. That looked like a piece of paper to me.
All right. Last one.
No, go on. It's fine. So playing rock, paper, scissors on an audio podcast isn't really a good.
No one has a clue what anybody saw there.
Anyway, give us your.
Hang on a second. I won. So that
means I go first.
That means you're going first.
Okay. So my top 3 for Miami, and as we talked about it today, we talked about that confidence. I think that, I can see your face, the confidence that Red Bull have, I don't see that being taken away. And I think there's going to be a Verstappen 1, I think there's a Perez 2, and I think there's a Leclerc 3.
Whoa! So you went with fucking Red Bull 1 and 2 again.
Yeah,
2 race weekends in a row.
Yeah, I am that confident in what they're going to do.
Wow.
Yeah, I really think that's going to happen.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I've gone with Verstappen, obviously, again, just the confidence. But I've gone with Leclerc 2, Sainz 3.
Oh, Sainz 3, right?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know whether this is just for, it's like doing the lottery. Those people that do the lotto with their same numbers every week, you just pray to God it comes up.
Yeah.
That might be what's happening with me and Sainz at the moment.
Yeah.
It'll be the one time I don't stick him in my prediction and he'll win it or something.
It's a stopped clock is right twice a day, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going with Sainz in third.
Right, that's interesting. Yeah, okay. I can see myself pulling back some points in Miami, I think. So my surprise, is it flop or surprise first?
What's the more exciting? Go with flop.
Okay.
Go with the flop first.
My flop for Miami.
Be interested to see if you have the same as me actually on this one.
I don't think I will. My flop for Miami is unfortunately Sebastian Vettel.
I looked at Vettel and I was like, I didn't have the heart to do it. I was I know. Yeah, I know he's probably going to flop, but I just didn't have the heart to throw him in.
So, somewhat of a safe bet, maybe, but yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see. Who's your flop?
Sonoda.
Oh, poo Sonoda.
Absolutely ripped the Yuki.
Yeah, that's a good bet. I think that's safe.
Now they've made they've made good improvements with the car, so I don't know. Maybe they'll fare well in Miami, but no, I'm gonna go with Sonoda.
Yeah, good shot. Okay, so my flop my surprise for the week. I don't know if on talking to you over the course of this podcast today, I don't think you're going to have the same one as me, but I think that how Toto was talking at the end of the race, there's going to be some work put into that Mercedes. I think Hamilton is going to be my surprise for next week or for Miami. Did we pick the same surprise?
We picked the same. Yeah,
oh,
Hamilton's my surprise as well.
Holy moly! What's your reasoning?
Captain America will want to fucking do well. I don't know. He's just. Be honest. My only reasoning is it's Lewis Hamilton. It's got to come good. He loves America. I mean, he was the poster boy out there, Formula One in America. Before the whole Drive to Survive thing and stuff like that. So he'll want to do well. And it's a new track. He'll want to stamp his mark. Like, I can't imagine he's going to go into this weekend or into that race weekend with that sulky, kind of deflated attitude. I think he's got 2 weeks off now. I think he'll recoup and I think he'll come good. I think whether now, here's one for you. Will he or won't he outscore Russell?
George Russell. Well, I mean, we have to decide now because we've both picked Hamilton, so we have to figure out a way of divvying up those points then.
Okay, so are we going to go Brucey bonus higher or lower than George Russell?
Well, I mean, we could both pick. Yeah, I mean.
Or we're probably going to
both pick, I think, positions because we're probably going to both pick the same way when it comes to that.
Okay.
I think.
Right.
Okay. So what I learned last week was that when I put the thing in, so I'm going to put in now what position I think he's going to be. I'm going to put it in there now, and then I'm going to take it away when it's the reveal, so you'll be able to see it at the exact same time.
Can you see mine then?
No. Can you see mine?
No. All right. Okay. So we've got this sussed. All right.
Okay. Right.
Okay, so hang on a second.
Oh God, if this is the same position.
Then we're gonna have to go higher and lower as well.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go. Hang on a second. Let me just I'm gonna go with I'm really okay. Okay. Ready?
God.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, Oh, okay. That's we went the exact opposite as we did last week. So you went for Hamilton P5. I went Hamilton P7. I went a little bit safer than you did.
Yeah, I'm thinking Hamilton 5, Russell 6.
Yeah. Oh, well, ahead of Russell.
Yeah, I was going to go higher.
I don't think that's going to happen. But it will lead us to a conclusion, nevertheless.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, that's. I'm looking forward to Miami. I really am. Like it's. Although I'm a bit disappointed, like a bit disgusted with the whole tickets and stuff like that. The price of the tickets are absolutely astronomical, and there's only 2 grandstands, and the rest is all like VIP stuff. Like it's. Yeah. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Don't care.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's it, I think, for this week. As always, if you want to get in touch with your own questions, comments, or corrections, send them on to feedback at Late Night Race Review. We'll be back for the Miami Grand Prix. Actually, we won't. We will be back a week earlier. We'll be back for the Pit Crew episode next week, and then Miami the following week. So until next week.